What is going on, Diablo 2 fans? Dobrunsky here, and today I'm going to be breaking down my 75 FCR hybrid teleporting smiter build. You can farm all 3 organs and a torch with this exact setup without a single piece of gear swapping in less than 5 minutes. It is a super efficient and effective build. And of course, if you want to see me using this build and other Diablo 2 builds live on stream, you'll have to give me a follow on my Twitch channel. All of my future live streams are taking place on Twitch. The link for my Twitch channel, it's in the description below. You can catch me making silly, stupid mistakes like farming player 7 Duriel with this exact hybrid setup. And like all of my previous build videos, timestamps are in the description as well. So if you guys want to jump back and forth between different segments of the video that interest you, they're there for you guys to use. So please take advantage of them. Other than that, guys, I really do hope you enjoy this video. Let's jump in. Before I dive into the specifics of this smiter build, there are a few key points about gear debates and what works and what doesn't work with smite that I want to cover. So first up, I want to talk about grief versus last wish, the debate, which is a better weapon for your smiter. I think it really depends if you want to take a more offensive based approach or a more defensive based approach. Personally myself, I prefer grief, and that is because it's a more offensive approach to your smiter. Grief with fanaticism, you hit the max IS breakpoint for smite, no problem. You don't need any additional IS, and also the additional plus damage from grief is added to smite even though it doesn't show up on your character screen, versus last wish, which is, like I said, a more defensive based approach. That is because of the fade proc. The kind of downside to using last wish is you need to have an additional source of IS, like an IS all-res jewel in your helmet or something, to reach the max smite breakpoint. But they're both really good weapons. Again, I'm more preferable to using grief. It's also cheaper. That's another benefit of the pros and cons between weighing out the two. But depending on the weapon that you use, I think it's going to kind of change the optimal shield choice for your smiter. Exile versus Hawes, the ultimate shield debate for a smiter, which is going to be the best setup. Again, I want to stress here that we're talking about optimal setup. So Drax, Lift Up Wand, Marowaks, that's okay for kind of a more budget to mid-end smiter setup. For your ultimate gear selection, I think that if you're using grief on the main end as your weapon, Exile for your shield is going to be the best in-slot choice because of the high % chance of proccing life tap. But if you go with your more defensive-based approach of using Last Wish that already has a high % chance of casting a really high-level life tap, then I think an upped Hawes is going to be the best shield because of the additional plus 50 to roll resistances, plus skills to boost your fanaticism and smite damage. It's just a better pairing to Last Wish in my opinion. So again, it really depends on the weapon. That's just my personal opinion. Any combination of any of these shields and weapons will work completely fine with any smiter setup. And finally, I just want to cover what works and what does not work with the skill smite, because I think there's a lot of misconception there with returning Diablo 2 players, people that just don't fully understand the mechanics of the skill. So what does work with smite? Life tap, crushing blow, and open wounds. It's almost like the creators of Diablo 2 were kind of setting up the smiter to be the ultimate uber farmer, because open wounds is going to stop them from regenerating health. Crushing blow is going to drastically bring down their massive health pool initially very quickly. And then life tap just makes it so that you cannot die, especially when you have a maxed out IS attack frame. Every successful strike is just going to completely replenish your health. Now, what does not work with smite? Attack rating, deadly strike, and lifesteal. Now, what do I mean by attack rating doesn't work with smite? Well, smite never misses. It can't be blocked. It just never misses. That is why you can see people have level 30 characters doing challenges of trying to take on Ubers. You just don't need a massive attack rating pool. Every hit is always going to hit, and that's why when you get like a life tap proc, you can just constantly replenish your health. You're not sitting there missing all the time. Deadly strike also does not work, so you will see on this setup when we dive into the gear, I am using Gore Riders, so the deadly strike from those boots does not work, but I'm using them because of the crushing blow and open wounds. And finally, lifesteal as well does not work, but that doesn't matter because you're proccing life tap anyways. So that's what works and what doesn't work, as well as kind of the main debates between the optimal weapon and shield for your smiter setup. That's everything that I wanted to cover, the key points. So now we'll dive into the attributes, skill tree, and the gear. The attribute breakdown for this character is very straightforward. It is enough strength to equip my gear, enough dexterity to have max block after I've used battle command and holy shield. You just go down to your defense, you toggle the amount of dexterity that you need to achieve 75% block, And then everything else is put into vitality, don't have a single point put into energy. And with my gear setup, I have 84 lightning res, 80 poison res, 70 cold, and 73 fire. The 84, you'll see when we go over the skill tree how I get that, but that's really important for Uber Mephisto. We actually kind of toggle between two different we toggle back and forth between an offensive and defensive aura just specifically for Uber Mephisto until we proc life tap, but more on that when we kind of dive into the gameplay. But that's a quick summarization of the attributes. We'll start off with the offensive auras. So I have 1 hard point into might to unlock blessed aim, 1 into blessed aim to unlock concentration, and then completely maxed fanaticism. This is the main aura that we'll be using while we're smiting, with the exception of toggling back and forth between defensive aura, which go to the defensive tree, is salvation. I have 1 hard point put into salvation. I just quickly toggle between this and fanaticism specifically for Uber Mephisto just until I get life tap procced, and then I switch back to fanaticism. And then I completely maxed out Defiance. That is because it is a synergy for go to the combat tree for Holy Shield. So we maxed Smite for damage, 1 hard point into Holy Bolt, 1 into Charge, 1 into Blessed Aim to unlock Holy Shield, then a completely maxed Holy Shield, and then completely maxed Defiance to synergize its total defense. And then that's why that's 30. And then all of my remaining points I put into Resist Lightning. That is because every +2 points, I believe, it's either +2 or +3. I think it's +2. Every +2 points that you put into Resist Lightning, you get an additional 1 to maximum lightning resistance on your character, which is why you see me having a total of 84 lightning res completely capped, and that again is specifically for Uber Mephisto. That breaks down the tree. I don't really know how much you would change other than if you want to, you can put enough points into conviction to have a higher conviction than Uber Mephisto's conviction to cancel it out. That is an alternative option instead of going the route I did with 1 point into salvation. Again, it's really up to you, but that's basically kind of the standard skill tree breakdown for any smiter, to be honest. I don't think I've changed too much there as far as those skill points are invested. The gear, which is kind of the most exciting part for you guys, you'll see why this is a 75 FCR teleporting hybrid setup. So starting with the offhand, CTA for the buff, I'm actually teleporting on the offhand with this particular smiter build. But we have my 462 CTA and a crystal sword, and then that is paired with a 35 FCR Spirit. This is a Sacred Rondash base with 45 all res. It's really important to get 35 FCR with this setup, and you'll kind of see why, but we want to achieve 75 FCR teleporting on the offhand. So I get that from the 35 FCR on this Spirit. 20 on a Rax brings us to 55, and then I have this crazy caster amulet that is a 2 to combat skills, 20 FCR, 10% all res amulet. I so wish that this was 2 to paladin skills. It would be amazing for Hammerden. Being super picky there because combat skills does not boost our offensive auras for like concentration for Hammerden. But anyways, you get the idea. It's not a Hammerden guide, this is a Smiter guide. But we get 75 FCR from 20 there, 20 there, and then 35. That is how I get 75. Now, you might say to yourself watching this video, well, dude, I don't have a 220 paladin amulet. How is this setup possible? Well, you can actually just swap out the gloves. Now, it does not matter. Don't Omega lull me. You can run Mage Fist, so that gives you 20, 40, and then you get your 35, that's your 75, and then you can just run an amulet like High Lords if you want additional IAS if you're using Last Wish, or Mara's for the +2 to all skills and all resistances. You don't have to have this crazy amulet. You get enough Crushing Blow with the rest of your gear that you can run Mage Fist. It's not ideal, but you absolutely can, so you don't need this crazy 220 amulet. The helmet is an G-Face, plus strength, so we have less points going to the strength to equip our gear. The 15 all res from the rune, Crushing Blow, again, Deadly Strike, but doesn't work with Smite, but doesn't matter because we just have our Crushing Blow. And then we paired that with Gore Riders for an additional 15% Crushing Blow, as well as Open Wounds. This is my only source of Open Wounds. Again, there are other sources, like if you wanted to use Drax, that's a chance to get additional Open Wounds, but I think it's kind of overkill with the shield that I'm using, which we'll cover that in a second. And I have a Ravenfrost ring that is specifically so I don't get frozen, and I paired that with a Wisp Projector ring for Lightning Absorb for Uber Mephisto. You can use other stuff like T-Gods or Dwarf Star for Fire Absorb for Uber Diablo. Again, this whole premise behind this build is absolutely zero gear swapping. So that is why I'm using Wisp Projector. And then of course Enigma for the body armor. That is how you get the 75 FCR teleporting. But if I go to the main hand, you'll see that I'm using Grief paired with Exile. This was made in a 29 all-res e-bugged ethereal Zakarum shield. So it's not quite like your top tier Exile, but that is where I get my source of life tap. 15% chance to cast level 5 life tap on striking, so it's going to proc right away all the time, and that's why I paired it with Grief. I don't feel the need to use Last Wish. That's ultimately the gear setup. I promise you guys, you do not need to swap a single piece of gear. You can run Ubers absolutely no problem. The inventory for this Smiter, I am using a 1917 Paladin Torch, a 2018 Annie, and then I have a full inventory of combat skillers. Some of them have plus life, so this one's 29 to life, dexterity, a couple planes, this one gold find, and then 31 to life. So the additional plus combat skills is just boosting the overall damage of Smite, and it is increasing like our holy shield. So these aren't mandatory, but it's just nice for a little bit extra damage. And then every single one of these small charms is some assorted lightning or fire resistant, or plus life fire resistant, or plus strength fire resistant small charms. So that's how I get a crazy high 84 lightning res, and then 57. That's a little bit low for fire specifically, but it's not the end of the world. It's just you really want to make sure that the lightning is capped super high, and I achieve that basically through all of these crazy small charms. Now for the Mercenary's gear, Mercenary is not mandatory for your standard Smiter. You can definitely run this exact build without a Mercenary, but I do think it's really nice for the support. So quickly going over the Merc's gear, this is the main reason why I like using Mercenary with this setup, is I have an Insight. This is a horrible rolled Insight, 14 to Meditation, 4 to Critical Strike. But when you are teleporting around with a relatively low mana pool, because they don't have SOJs or Shaco like your standard Hammerden, it's really nice to have a Meditation aura. To be honest, the Mercenary will almost never die on Duriel or Israel. So I do them in that order: Duriel first, then Israel, and then I do Lilith last. There's a good chance that he is going to die on Lilith. I think it's about a 50-50 shot of him surviving or dying, but it doesn't matter at that point, because once I've found Lilith a killer, then I can just quickly teleport back to town. I don't need to worry necessarily so much about my overall mana pool. That's why I do Lilith last. The body armor is just Treachery, so if it procs, he has capped res and DR, and then the helmet is Blackhorn's Face, just to slow the Ubers down a little bit, and then Lightning Resistance and Lightning Absorb, because he can sometimes survive against Uber Mephisto. It kind of helps with that. This kind of gear that I threw around, really the helmet or body armor doesn't matter. It's just mostly getting the Insight aura so that I can teleport completely unlimitedly without having to, that's not even a word. I can completely teleport, not having to worry about mana. Anyways, so that is the Mercenary's gear. So now we'll cube up some keys, farm some organs, and then do a torch run. Okay, so I have 3 keys set up here, or 3 sets of keys, excuse me. So for those that don't know, if you're really new to Diablo 2, you always want to spawn all 3 of these portals in one shot. You don't want to do one of them at a time, because you're not necessarily going to always get the correct locations spawned. So what do I mean by that? Well, you could just do one single one on its own. You could get the Matron's Den, and then you could make a new game. You might get the Matron's Den again. So you're not always going to get all 3 organs. That's why you want to do all 3 at the exact same time. So we'll do the Forgotten Sands first. Fully buffed up. Gotta find Duriel. So this is why I love the hybrid setup with using an Insight Mercenary, is because I can just teleport willy-nilly, non-stop, not having to worry about my mana pool at all. So there's Duriel. We'll just pull him away a little bit. Switch to the main hand. Oops, I'm not on Smite. It's on charge. Anyways. So switch to the main hand, Fanaticism, and Smite. Be a little bit smoother there if I didn't that little mess up. My Merc's dying because he's taking on spiders. So want him down. So we'll just go get rid of Amp.
Good afternoon.
Back to Mala. She's really good for that. We'll do Matron's Den last, like I said. Let's quickly rebuff. We'll find Izuel. There he is. Don't have to worry about anything. Main hand. Fanaticism and smite. There's the brain. Teleport out of here. You can use zeal. I should have mentioned that. You can use zeal as kind of a skill to clear away mobs instead of smite when you get a little bit overwhelmed, but I don't think with the ability to reposition and teleport yourself, I don't think you quite need it with this particular setup. Maybe if you're charging and running around. So the worst part is trying to find Lilith. This is where I lose most of my time. Or having these succubi put amp damage on me. But we'll see if Mercenary can survive Lilith. Kind of depends on her positioning and whether or not she nails him with poison. Okay. This was my worst fear for making this video, is she's either hidden behind a wall or I've teleported over her. Because she's black and really difficult to find. No Lilith yet. Come on, Lilith, where are you? I want my Diablo horn. There she is, okay. We'll try and get her to... try and lure her away a little bit. Not really having a lot of luck there, doesn't matter. Mercenary got nuked. Hopefully I don't die here when I pick up the organ, because we are getting... This shows you how strong the Smiter is. I mean, I'm taking damage from all over. Get out of there. It did take a little while to find her. That's probably where most of our time was lost. We did lose the Mercenary, although it's really not the end of the world losing the Merc.
Yes, warrior.
It's mostly just for teleporting and doing the organs. You don't really need him in Tristram, but we'll bring him along anyways. So now the only thing that you're going to do differently is I use Salvation temporarily until I get Life Tap procced on Uber Mephisto. Try and separate them a little bit. Wait till Life Tap procs. Procs there, then switch to Fanaticism. Just go to town. Now the big disadvantage to Pluggy is there's no Uber minions. I know people are probably going to mention something about that. It just is what it is. The only downside to doing Ubers. Oh, Mercenary just died on Uber Diablo. Not the end of the world.
My brothers will not have died in vain.
And we'll check out the torch for the end of this video and see what we get. But there was not a single piece of gear swapping. We did lose the Mercenary on Lilith, but it's gonna happen, and Uber Mephisto. Or sorry, Uber Diablo, actually. A little bit of a mess up there at the start. Charging into Duriel, but nothing too crazy. But that is a super fast key run without a single piece of gear swapping. And wrap up this video with a torch, which is a 15-13 Necromancer torch. So not the best way to wrap up this video. Well guys, there you have it. That is my hybrid 75 FCR teleporting Hammerton that you do not need to swap a single piece of gear on. Do hope you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to let me know in the comment section below if there's anything that you guys would change gear wise. I'm sure that you guys would maybe tweak some of the setup. Feel free to let me know. And as always, if you guys could throw a like on this video, share it, and even consider subscribing if you're new to my channel. I post new weekly content and stream on Twitch on a consistent basis. So if you guys could give me a follow on Twitch and a sub on YouTube, I'd really appreciate it. Other than that, guys, hope you have a great day, and I'll see you on my next Diablo video or live stream. Peace out.